what we've always found with the caravans is that once they end, people reformulate their own groups, and they usually reformulate pretty large groups. We've had, when our first caravan started a year ago, October. And so we've had groups that have traveled ever since together as a caravan. They get bigger, they get smaller, but they're a group and they maintain that. That's what we're suggesting to you now. You're in a caravan now, maintain your own group in whatever size works for you, not too big, and maybe have 2 or 3 groups that you loosely travel together and loosely camp together. But that's what we're suggesting happens now for everyone. Small groups, you travel together, you formulate your own plans, and go from there. Any comments on that question? No?
No.
Eddie, I have a feeling nomads are in a better position for this virus than those of us still stuck in sticks and bricks. And I believe that's absolutely true until the very worst happens, and then maybe not. But until now, yes. I think you're safer now than you would have been. Joanne, wouldn't you say the 3 of you are safer now than you could be almost any other way?
Not only that, but my group actually does have a physical base back in Connecticut, and we're finding that they're going to need more help than my nomad group is. And it's because they're in much more they're very smaller safe zones in a city or a town. There's too many people, there's too many things that you do every day, there's too much temptation. And out here, we're in a much healthier environment. Now, again, we have to do a lot more thinking about where we're going and have multiple options at hand in case anything changes. But I think from a mental health point of view and from a health point of view, we are safer out here.
I agree completely. Thoughts, Sam?
No, I think that was good.
Okay, Maria Levy, I'll bet nomads are in a better position in this crisis than we are. You can move to any location, get around to find supplies. I'm still baffled by the power of the media to send society into this panic mode. Your thoughts on this? Are we overreacting? I guess that's the question. I think we are in a better position. We just said that. Are we all overreacting? Joanne, what do you think?
Well, I think the toilet paper thing was a bit
Yeah.
so, I'd rather people overreact with toilet paper than not react at all or dismiss it. So, I'm a kind of a glass half full kind of person. So, when I see the shelves empty, I know that in the grocery store, I know shelves are full in people's homes or in their rigs, and that's a good thing.
Joanne, your thoughts?
I really don't think we're overreacting. People were sort of smirking at what I was doing in February, and it turned out that was right.
It is, and it's going to turn out even more right as it rolls along here.
I do not think people need to panic. I just want to say that I don't think people need to panic and focus on the worst case scenario, but I don't think we're overreacting.
No. And again, it comes down to this. They say, well, it's only a little bit more lethal than the flu, but it depends on your age. If you're a child, it's not lethal at all, practically. If you're 30s or 40s and you've got good health, it's not going to be any big deal. This is a death sentence for my mom. If it comes into this house, I'm at my sister's house with my mom. She's dead. It's not overreacting to her. And for those of us who are in their 60s, 70s, 80s, go ask at these retirement homes where people are dropping like flies, if that's overreacting. If you're older, this is not overreacting. This is underreacting so far, in my opinion, just my opinion. Miss Dawn Burton asks, my worries about being in a van or vehicle at this time is the limited amount of storage space. You can't carry a lot of food or supplies, and right now there is little to be had anywhere. Definitely vehicle dwellers are better off not being around a bunch of people, but you still have to eat, you still have to get gasoline for your vehicles, and there are other supplies that you must have, like water. Let me respond by that. I think every nomad, and I think we're going to learn lessons from here, I hope, should have a water filter and have an idea of where there's water in your area. There's a lot of water out here. And if you had a water filter, water stops being an issue, and you can get a good one for $50 and just never have it in your rig and never leave it. And so I think that's a lesson we'll all learn from this. Another lesson I think we should all learn, this is going to end. This isn't really that big. It's a big deal, but it's going to end, and supplies will come back. And when they do, I would suggest every van dweller go out and buy a 30-day bucket of food. They're light. They have decades of lifespan. Have one or two of those, and then I think we should learn from this lesson and be ready for the next one. And those are two things that we should all have. I think we should do when this is all over. Go out and get those. But she's right. We do have to go into town. Of course, if you live in a house, you have to go into a town. How is it any different? If you live in a town, in a house in the middle of LA, surrounded by people, you have to walk out of your house and go get the food and you don't have to get the water. You got to go get the food. You can have more on hand to begin with. Okay, any thoughts? Sue Ann, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I'm currently in a Prius, so I have about as limited space as you could have. And I would estimate, and I think I'm pretty good, I have at least a month's worth of food here. Now, the challenge will be if I'm ill, most of that food requires cooking. So how do I then continue to survive when I'm not even well enough to cook? I do, as you recommend, have a water filter, as well as the ability to carry about 12 gallons of water in my rig. So even with a small rig, it's possible, with some challenges that I've mentioned.
Let's add that you carry your water in MSR bladders.
I do. They're 10-liter bladders, which is about 2.5 gallons. I have 4 of those, plus I have a bevy of about 20-ounce water bottles that make up at least another gallon.
So bladders are a good thing for those of you who need the tiny spaces. Joanne, your thoughts about our limitations on ability to carry more food?
Yeah, one, now would be a good time to learn extreme water conservation, because if you can learn to wash your dishes with spray bottles and that sort of thing, I get by on 10 gallons of water a week easily for me and my dog. Almost all of that goes for drinking. And that helps. And the other thing that I'm doing is I am making sure that when I get down to 2 weeks of food, that I do go to the grocery store. I never go below 2 weeks worth of food. And the other thing too, to mention for Sue Ann's thing, I never used to carry much canned food at all. It's heavy. I don't like it, that sort of thing. Canned food is all cooked. You may want to heat it up, but you don't have to. If you're hungry enough and you're sick enough, that can of string beans, you can just pick them up with your fingers and eat them, whatever, and there is canned meats, and, they aren't the things that I would eat normally, but, I've just rediscovered Underwood deviled ham, which I used to eat when I was a kid. And again, I can just pop that can open and I can eat it. So I try to keep a lot of canned food around right now.
Good idea.
Very good. I saw this coming a couple of weeks ago, a little bit of coming, and so I went out and stocked up on canned goods. Because it's heavy, I don't like to carry a lot of canned goods, but I bought, I did at least 2 weeks ago, and there was plenty. I bought a lot of tuna. You can just open a can of tuna and eat it and drink it. And I bought canned chicken, and I bought canned and jarred spaghetti sauce and noodles. Whole wheat noodles, because there's some health value in whole wheat noodles. Just a bunch, and chili. I got a bunch of chili in the rig. I like chili. I think it's a good balance of foods. Soups, bought a bunch of Campbell's chunky soups. So yeah, I think I have a lot more than I normally would carry. Probably have a couple months at least of food on the rig right now. So it's not that hard. But and again, I'm going to suggest that when this is all over, things start to come back to normal. Everyone go out. I mean, their buckets, their kitty litter bucket size usually 30-day food supply will fit in, you know, a normal, can you see all that? Normal kitty litter sized bucket, and it's kind of squarish, fits, throw it in the back somewhere, and there you got 30-day supply at all times. It's good for months, good for years and years and years. They won't go bad. And when this gets back to normal, I would say we all prep that much. Get a water filter. Do you ever think about anything like this happening before becoming a full-time nomad? If so, what did the envision it would look like? So I'm not sure if he means two ways to look at that. Did you imagine a pandemic before, and did you imagine natural disasters? I'll just answer that one real quick. This March, and every March I think about the Good Friday earthquake. I went through the Good Friday earthquake in 1964, third largest earthquake ever to occur on the planet, and that we know of, and the largest in the North American continent. And that had a tremendous impact. I think about natural disasters all the time. I don't think about them all the time. I am aware of them, and every March they're on my mind. So yeah, this is something I've given thought to, natural disasters and the tremendous advantage. If it's hurricane season in Florida, go away. You're living in a van, drive away. If it's tornado season in the spring and the snakes are coming out in Texas, move, go, leave. But you can't run away from a pandemic any more than going out in the woods as far as you can and being there as long as you can. And prepared, you could be out in the woods a couple of months. So yeah, there's a big advantage in natural disasters or pandemics to being in a nomad. I think that's something I've always been aware of. Joanne, any comment on that?
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Joanne?
I'm good.
Oh, let me go back to a little bit. On Monday, I'm planning a video coming out about Winter Count, which is a primitive living skills gathering. And I think that's, and it was just a perfect timing because we just finished editing these videos. KC went to them and took a bunch of videos. It's all about primitive living skills, which is all about self-sufficiency. So it's learning about how to forage, finding foods all around you that are there and just waiting for you to eat them, and safely and healthily. It's about hunting, particularly for small game. Wherever you are, there's probably rabbits. There may or may not be a rabbit season. You always want to obey all the laws of the land as far as hunting goes. And then making your own, making your own shoes, making your own clothes, making all your own tools, and making your own shelters. And so I think that's something, learning that hobby of primitive living skills is something that we should all consider doing, just as a wonderful hobby. It gets us outdoors. I mean, doesn't have to be hunting. If that doesn't appeal to you, it can be foraging. There's lots of good foods out there you can go eat if you just knew which ones. Where are we at? Reverend RV, what about the caravans and social distancing of members in these groups from one another? Should a caravan stay put for a while? If a member of a caravan got sick, couldn't the caravan carry the illness of the four corners of the globe, especially if they broke up and dispersed? So yeah, that's a question. I think we have to be socially responsible and not contribute to spreading this and making it worse. That's the last thing we want to do. How can we avoid that? Suanne?
Well, as far as the caravans, the caravan program, we're doing two things. We're currently, for the rest of March, limiting it to 10 people, 10 participants. And if for some reason there ends up being more than 10 participants, we're asking you to split from each other so that you're two very distinct camps a ways from each other. As far as the caravan program goes, in April, May, and June, for the second quarter, we are canceling it. And so due to the very issues that Reverend RV has brought up, we don't want to spread the virus via the caravans. And at the same time, earlier in the video, we talked about ways that that nomads can just informally get together in small, like-minded groups so that you have both the benefits of being a nomad and social distancing from the large community, while at the same time having a very loose community where you practice good behaviors that will deter the spread of the virus.
Very much so. Yeah. Yeah. So in other words, your group's just going to stay together, I would assume, Joanne. Is that how you're going to avoid spreading it around?
Well, if one of us becomes ill, heaven forbid, we will reassess and we will try to figure out how to self-quarantine and really not, again, we do not want to be typhoid Marys.
Right.
You know, it's the same thing as if you were home. You know, if you had two roommates, what would you do if one of you got coronavirus? Well, you wouldn't be going to your job at Starbucks.
Right.
You know, it's the same thing. But I would like to make a plea that people not use this as an excuse when you and your traveling companions are healthy to violate rules of camping on public lands or to stay in larger groups than you should, because now is not the time to become a nuisance or to look like a health hazard. You know, we are seeing a lot of stuff getting shut down to us. We don't need any more shutdown because there's a legitimate health concern or because we're taking up too much of the rangers' time. People are going to be irritable. All people in the United States are going to be irritable and not reactionary. They're going to react rather than think. And so let's be very, very careful to look like, you know, model citizens and follow all the rules. Again, when somebody gets sick, that may be a different thing altogether. And you're going to have to think about what you do. And you may have to stay in one place because that person needs medical care and you need to stay away from other people, including the gas station.
Right. Yeah, I just agree so wholeheartedly. We can't allow this to bring disrepute to us as a community. We have to be model citizens now. That's really, really important. Okay, next question. Okay, Jason Mikowski asks, also what happens if you're a full-timer traveling to BLM and a travel ban is issued? Well, again, this is a worst case. What do you do if the travel ban is issued? You can't drive on the roads. Well, you can't drive on the roads. I don't have any more answers than that. You'll just stay put where you are for as long as you can. And if you reach the point where you just have to go, you just have to go. I think they'll understanding that if I stayed there any longer, I was going to die because I was out of food and water. So I'm going into town to find help. They're not going to arrest you and lock you up because of that. I don't have any answers. Any other thoughts on that?
No.
Yeah, we can think worst case scenarios, but hopefully it just doesn't come to that. Brainmaker, and please let people know this new news for jobs. I know a lot of road life people who depend on the service industry and are suddenly completely out of work. Oh, he wants us to know. Amazon is currently hiring 100,000 new workers for the fulfillment centers around the country. I imagine they will also need delivery workers, but haven't heard that yet. I hope this helps some of our community who must keep earning. Yeah, actually, this is a good time for, it's not negative for Amazon because people can't go to the store. They're ordering from Amazon. UPS is still running because they're not in direct contact with people. So actually, Amazon, I guess, is hiring. And if you need to work, now is a time to go to work for Amazon. Look into that.
They have this on their Camper Force work site. I posted this in our village group today. They are doing Camper Force where they will give you a campsite to stay in, which could also be the answer for someone who's nervous about travel bans and moving around. The other thing I would say too is my son works at FedEx and the flu is decimating their workforce.
Really?
My guess is if you have to stay in an area, you might look at the FedEx hubs and that sort of thing and apply for a job there.
Right. So this might be a time more than ever to go to Amazon. They'll give you a place to live, hopefully that's safe on the job, and you can contribute to society overcoming. So very good. Thank you, Brainmaker, for making us aware of that. Douglas Clark, do you recommend camping away from other people to follow the recommended isolating? Well, we've been talking about that a lot. Yeah, I recommend in small groups, 2 or 3. I think you're stronger in that size, but if you're more comfortable alone, yeah, absolutely. Any other thoughts?
No,
Kind of the
not
same thing over and over. Glamper, Meg, do you have any suggestions about what we should do if there is a government order to shelter in place? Well, if you're on public land when that happens, stay put. Would be my first thought. I don't know yet. We'll have to see the orders. This is a very fluid situation, but my first thought would be, yeah, just stay right where you are. Yeah. Thoughts on that? Anything?
Just a note, the Bay Area shutdown, lockdown, whatever we're calling it, excluded homeless people. There was a specific exclusion for homeless people. And every lockdown, including the one in Italy that I know about, allows you to go into grocery stores and get gas and things like that. So like I look at it right now as I'm almost living in lockdown right now. It sounds scary, but it might not be as bad as it sounds.
Right. Even if it's a shelter in place, you can still go to the grocery store and get gas. Okay. Yeah, that'd be the key thing, as long as you can go to the store. Randall Hitchcock. Thanks, Bob. If this gets worse and us nomads, I know that you can't shut everything down, but what happens when they restrict the amount of fuel at the pump we can get? Right now we're awash in gas, and I don't think that will happen, but I don't know. Or this is wild speculation. But if we're going to wildly speculate, I can't imagine shutting down the pumps because we're awash in gas, and that's people who need gas need gas. So I don't think that's an issue. What happens if it does happen? What can I possibly answer? I don't have an answer. I don't have magic solutions. We'll find out. It's an evolving situation. CTV, any info on the possibility of the NPs, national parks, campgrounds, BLM being closed during all this? Social distancing, which boondocks should be seen as helpful, not hindering. Right, very good point. Yeah, is there a possibility that the BLM and national forests could close public land to us using it? It's a possibility. In fact, Joanne, do you want to talk about that in Utah? I think you're familiar with that.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about it? We know a little bit.
Yeah, Moab's health department got really upset at tourists that were kept coming to see Arches and Canyonlands National Park because their hospital is going to get overwhelmed. And this is why we have to be careful about it appearing to be a health risk, because that's when we're going to see restrictions more and more. And they have taken 3 counties and they have outlawed hotels, motels, RV parks, campgrounds, that sort of thing, from checking anybody in, etc. They also have prohibited this on on what they call public and private lands. So like a rancher can't rent you a campsite on his ranch. It's unclear how that would work on public lands, and I see no alerts up in the Canyonlands website yet. But yeah, but this is, again, one of the reasons why we need to be careful that we don't ever appear to be violating CDC guidelines, and that we don't overwhelm one area with too many of us, and that we, don't make people afraid.
Right. Our recommendation is go someplace, stay there. Don't be moving around. Don't be only going to town when you absolutely have to. Don't draw any attention to yourself. Don't be in big groups. That's our recommendation. That's all we can do.
You mean stay there for the legal amount of time though, Bob, right?
Right. Yes. Absolutely. And then move when you're done.
Yep.
Suanne, comments?
No,
No.
Joanne Joanne piped up exactly what I was going to say.
Right. Aleo Bells, how does a RV nomad stock up on food supplies when they have so little storage space? How is frequent hand washing impacting your water supplies? Thoughts on that, Sue-Ann? Well, you're in a Prius, so you know a little bit about it.
So I use hand sanitizer anyway, really frequently. I think probably instead of using how I've changed is instead of using a half a pump, I'm now using a full pump of hand sanitizer. So that's my decision. And I understand the CDC says hot water and soap is a better solution, but for me, that's not very practical. So I'm using hand sanitizer.
Right. Joanne, do you have anything to add?
Spray bottle, you know, and because you use very little water if you use a spray bottle, and it's really not going to hit your water supply significantly.
Right, absolutely.
No, I don't do hot water either, but I think it's the water is the most important part. The soap is the second most important part, and the hot water is good if you can get it. So I don't worry about the hot water.
Right. And the key thing is the isolation, your safe zones. Let's go back to Joanne's safe zones.
Right.
She avoids unsafe places so that it's not with her. If you're not around where the virus is, you don't. Once you go to town, Joanne,
Right.
and you come home, then you're really careful about washing up.
Right.
And after that, nothing changes.
Right. Exactly. And I never used to use hand sanitizer. I mean, unless I was in a porta potty and that was what was there after using the bathroom, you know, but I never bought hand sanitizer. I now carry alcohol in a spray bottle in my purse. I carry paper towels soaked in alcohol for use when I'm out where I don't have access to not running water, but to water and soap. And then, yes, I go back to my old habits when I'm in my rig because I didn't bring anything significant in from outside, you know, but then again, for me, and again, your mileage may vary on what you want to do. I actually wipe down the things I buy before I bring them into my safe zone.
Absolutely. Yeah. Someone with it and doesn't know they have it, they go in the store, they pick up a can, they say, oh, I don't want to get this. They put it back. You pick it up next, you've got it. And
Right.
so, yeah.
Most of our processed food, however, is done by machinery. So, you know, like if I buy 6 cans of V8 that are wrapped in plastic, I only worry about the plastic. You know, the parts that people stocking the shelves would touch, the part that people, you know, mostly stocking the shelves or putting them in your box of Walmart stuff that's being brought out to your car. You know, I don't go nuts and try and sterilize everything. I just look at the outside wrappings and figure out how best to make sure whatever germs are on there stay out of my rig. So it may mean removing those things, those outside wrappers. It may mean wiping stuff down, that sort of thing.
Right. You buy a box of cereal.
Right.
You take the inside thing out of it.
Yes, exactly.
It don't touch it. So then you know you're safe. Good. Very good. Where would Mark McCain asks, Bob, where would a safe from any kind of trouble place be for those living in their vehicles? My answer, and I think all of our answer, is public land. As remote on public land as you can reasonably get and be safe. Any thoughts?
That would be my answer.
Yeah. This is an important one. Brittany Saunders asks, I'm a few days away from completing my camper van conversion. I was hoping to start traveling as soon as possible. What do I do now? Should I postpone traveling? Now, she doesn't say what she means. Does traveling mean become a nomad full time or just going for a visit? Joanne, thoughts?
Yeah, I love being a full-time nomad. I've been a full-time nomad for 8 years, even while I had pretty serious mental illness. But if it were me and I could afford to stay home right now, and I wasn't on the road already, I would stay home. Now, somebody who's going to lose their home, that's a whole different equation. But, or if you're in an abusive relationship, that's a whole different equation. But if you have a choice, I wouldn't pick now.
Very good. I'm not sure I agree, but I think it's wise to at least think that way. Absolutely. A lot of ways it's easier being in a house right now.
Well, let me explain why I say that. It's hard that first year. It's really hard that first year. Life is
Yeah.
hard now for everybody already. That's why I'm not looking to go find a safe place and like live on my son's lawn. Okay. I'm not even thinking about that because I know how to do this. I know where to go. I have friends out here and I'm not afraid the way I was afraid that first year when I didn't know how to do anything and I kept thinking I was going to make a mistake that would get me in trouble. Again, that mental health thing. If your mental health is not as good as it can be, you're going to make mistakes that are going to get you into trouble with your physical health.
I think it's very wise. I hadn't thought of that. Yeah, very, very wise. So Ann, thoughts?
Joanne's hit on it. I think people need to figure out where they are themselves. I would repeat and emphasize what Joanne said. I think a lot of people new to the nomad lifestyle underestimate the transition period from sticks and bricks to being a nomad, and it is a huge transition period. So just if you're in that situation where you're trying to decide one way or another, I hope you take that into consideration, that that sometimes it's not as easy as it looks.
Very good. I think that's wise. Jason Mikowski, national parks, state parks, and Florida water management areas are closing as of Friday. Working full-time RVers, boondockers like myself go without fear of getting kicked out. And again, BLM and National Forest land, as of now, are still open. That may change, but as of now, to the best of my knowledge, they're all still open to dispersed camping. Any other comments on that?
And
Kathy?
it's going
Go
to
ahead.
vary from state to state, but it looks like the trend for state parks and county and city facilities is that they're going to be closing campgrounds.
Right, I think that's coming pretty inevitably. They don't want to have to keep people there to run them, for one thing. I think that's pretty inevitable. But hopefully, National Park, National Forest, and BLM land will stay open for dispersed camping. We'll find out. As of now, I believe they're open. A lot of gyms are shutting down because of coronavirus. Where will people shower? Truck stops only. Also, how will any travel ban or martial law, if it's declared, affect vehicle dwellers? So Ann, you're getting a chuckle out of that. What do you think?
Well, I sponge bath every day, so that's my solution with or without the coronavirus. And as Joanne is holding up her spray bottle, go spray bottle. That's it. Yep.
Joanne, anything you want to add there?
Spray bottle, vinegar and water 50-50, and microfiber cloth is a plus.
I'll spill the beans. I haven't been inside a shower in years. I haven't been, and I don't want to be. I don't shower, and the idea that you have to shower to be clean is preposterous. It's just that means that for the first 2 million years of human beings, no one was ever clean. That's just preposterous. That means 200 years ago, no one was clean, and that's just preposterous. That's just not the way it works. Now, let's address this one because we got a chuckle out of the first one. Also, how will any travel ban or martial law, if it's declared, affect vehicle dwellers? We don't know. I don't know. I don't know what else to say. You can think of the worst case and what will happen, and I just honestly don't know. Do either of you guys know? No, you don't know either?
No, it's
Doc?
an evolving situation. We'll take it one step at a time.
Yeah. We might get lumped in with the homeless. You know, whatever they do with the homeless, they might end up doing with us if they, well, if I drive into town to get gas or to buy food and water, will they arrest me in martial law? And what will they do with me? Will they put me in jail? I don't know. I just don't know. Our BLM office is open. Soyan, I think you know a little bit about that.
Well, I did some research on both National Forest and BLM, and including the Department of Agriculture, which manages the National Forest offices, and the Department of Interior that manages the BLM offices. BLM has nothing on their website, neither does the Department of Interior, to say anything about their offices being open or closed or any response to the coronavirus at all. The National Forest, on the other hand, and the Department of Agriculture is saying that they are going to keep their offices closed, and but they will let essential traffic through after they've quizzed them and they're and they can be assured that they're not a carrier of the virus as much as possible. So essentially, National Forest offices are closed as of yesterday, and BLM offices remain open based on my research on the website.
Okay. I would expect them all to be closed to the public really soon if they're not now.
I would expect so, sure, because we don't want the virus to be transmitted.
No, but I expect them to be taking phone calls for a little while at least. Who knows?
Yes.
Solana Armstrong asks, for those who rely on public washrooms or public showers, are you avoiding them? How are you managing? So I think a fair question here is when I was a stealth camper, I went to the gym every day, and I used public restrooms whenever possible, which was most of the time. So this is someone who's not used to showering in their rig or bathing in their rig or using the bathroom in their rig. So I think it's, when I look at it that way, it's a pretty reasonable question. You're going to have to do it inside your rig. It's just that simple. And you can. And I got videos on how to do it. And there are lots of, it's not that hard to do. You're just going to have to do it on your own in your rig. Anything to add to that?
Yeah, we've actually been joking about the fact that the ladies' room is now one of the safest places that we go, because it has hot water and soap. So like I did visit a BLM USDA interagency office the other day because we needed a written permit to camp where we were camping. And it was like, okay, no problem. I'll just go to the ladies' room afterwards, wash my hands really good, and then, make sure I don't touch the door on the way out, So I don't think we're going to see many public restrooms open in the future. But yeah, public restrooms, while we normally think of them as germy places because they have hot water and soap, it's not the worst place you can go. But I would not suggest anybody try to wash, their bodies in there.
Right. Wonderful. I'd like for you to share possible closures of BLM or national forest for boondocking purposes. I believe this summer is not the time to be traveling about due to lack of test kits. We could be asymptomatic carriers working against containing the virus. I'm looking for one cool area which I can stay compliant with 14-day rule while I am isolating myself from infection. I am also in most affected age group 60 and over. Any suggestions? Well, I think we've just been covering it over and over again.
Yeah.
14 days, stay deep into the forest and woods, take all, most of us can carry 14 days worth of food and water in a rig, move every 14 days and stay deep in the forest or the BLM until then. That's the best a human being can do right now, I think. And I think for me, it's being with a small group. But if you want to be alone, that's fine. Anything else?
No.
Brian Adams, what do you think about national forest in Arizona? Or should we head elsewhere? I would head elsewhere. The national forests in Arizona are all crowded. They're all heavily used. They're near Flagstaff or Phoenix or Tucson. and they get a lot of homeless. I wouldn't be anywhere near Flagstaff or Phoenix. Maybe on the eastern side of the Mogollon Rim, that's called the Mogollon Rim. There's a big band of national forests across the top of Arizona. Don't be anywhere near Flagstaff or Show Low or Payson. There's a big group of people in there, and they camp a lot, and they'll get a lot of attention. Maybe in the far eastern, no, I wouldn't. For the summer, I'd go to Colorado or Utah, Wyoming or Montana. That's where I'd go. Fewest people, least attention. That's personally what I would do this summer. Move every 14 days, drive 50 miles a day every 14 days. Keep moving up into the high country, the least populated country you can find. And I think that's Colorado, Utah, Wyoming, Montana. I'm not sure about Idaho. Thoughts on that? Where would you go this summer?
That's pretty much my list.
Right, right. Because I'm still hoping to see my grandson this summer, although that might not work, and that's Pacific Northwest. And I do know of some smaller campsites in that area. So it's you know, I'll say this again, it's such a fluid situation. I am not making summer plans set in stone. I just don't know what's going to happen.
Right. Don't be anywhere near a big city.
No.
Don't be anywhere near any kind of a big city. Tucson, a big city. Don't be anywhere near there. Flagstaff, it's like 100,000 or something. I don't know. Don't be anywhere near a big city because the homeless will be going out there and they will be enforcing. So I wouldn't be anywhere near the front in Colorado, the Front Range, Denver, Colorado Springs, Pueblo, Fort Collins. Don't be anywhere near any of those. Aspasia, once the travel bans are imposed by the government in this country, will you be stuck wherever you are as a nomad? I don't know, but possibly. Possibly. I mean, if you can't travel, it's illegal to stay where you are. It's illegal to move to somewhere else. I don't know. What do you do then? Joanne, do you have a thought?
Yeah, first of all, that assumes there will be travel bans within the states. We have not seen that. So there's that. The second thing too is, again, from what we have seen, the Bay Area specifically exempts homeless people from the regulations. They're encouraging them to go into shelters, but they're not forcing them. The Bay Area is pretty well locked down. So, again, no one can predict the future, but I'm aware that this is technically a possibility, but I'm not spending a lot of time worrying about what I'm going to do in that instance, because it will depend on a whole bunch of other things that we don't know about in the future.
Something to think about is that America kind of is divided in two. It's divided in rural America and urban America. And everything we hear about pertains mostly to urban America. We're hearing about New York City. We're hearing about Los Angeles. We're hearing about San Francisco. We're hearing about the big cities. But in rural America, what about in the middle of Kansas, where there's miles and miles and miles of nothing but a few little towns scattered around? I think things are going to be very different there. When your nearest neighbor is 20 miles away, and that's true of a lot of rural America, I think it's going to be a very different situation. So I think what we will do is go to rural America, out west in particular, because that's where the national forests are. And I think that a lot of these things that we're worrying about won't apply. We're thinking of Los Angeles and San Francisco and New York. I'm not going to be in those places. I'm going to be near a little podunk town with 500 people. And it's going to be a very different situation there than it will be in New York. So I think we're seeing the worst of New York and applying it to the whole country. I'm just speculating, I'm just guessing, but I think there's a possibility that will be the case. We'll find out. did China stop exporting as well as other countries unless you buy a lot of canned goods, canned vegetables? Do you think we will be facing food shortages? Like I said 2 weeks ago, yeah, it occurred to me that we would be facing food shortages. So I went out and I didn't buy a year's supply, but I probably have maybe a month's supply of canned meats and pastas, and bought some extra crackers, just things that I could have on hand, weren't going to go bad. I knew I would eat them eventually. So I think if you can still do that, you should do that. I bought tuna, soup, chili, pasta, spaghetti sauce, things like that. So what about food? What do you guys think about food? Joanne or Joanne, anything?
Nothing
We
more.
kind of talked about.
Yeah, I would say throw in some canned fruit because you're going to need something that tastes sweet.
Very good. And the liquid, there's
Yeah.
water too. Yeah. And calories. I mean, some of it's just going to be getting calories.
Yeah.
LFA, regardless of people's opinions on the virus itself, public policy does affect nomads in various ways. Do you agree? Oh, of course, yeah. If the government shuts down the federal land, public land from dispersed camping, yeah, we are tremendously impacted. I have no idea what we'll do then. Then we'll be lumped in with the homeless, I guess. I don't know. Well, I think it's 3:40. Maybe we're about done. Let's address this one again, because I thought your outlook was really good there on this one. Vicky Hauser asked, Bob, can you address the outlook and options you foresee for those who are in transition? Must we move out by April 30th? Budget plan is for dispersed camping. Still looking for our RV. Staying put is not an option. So that answers that. But would you share your thoughts on that again? I thought they were very good.
Yeah. Again, I love this lifestyle. I'm not trying to get out of this lifestyle now. This has been really good for me. I've been a success at it. But if I were still in an apartment that I could afford, if I still had a home that was safe, I would postpone, because that first year is so stressful. It's a huge life change. It's going to put tons of stress on you. And as I keep saying, if you are too stressed, and then you add in the stress of trying to keep yourself safe and trying to keep up with everything that's going on, you're going to be under crushing stress. Now, if you really don't have an option, if you are going to lose that home, if your husband's beating you or your wife is trying to poison you or whatever, then you might need to try this, even though it's way too stressful. But if I could wait, I would wait if I were new.
Right. Yeah. I think that would be my advice too. If it's possible to stay home for the moment. Not because I think you're better off in the long run, but you got to get to the long run first. And the short run can be pretty hard. That's a very good thought. I hadn't even thought about that yet. Here's a question that we haven't seen addressed. And I think it's an important one. I'm not sure I have an answer. Talitha says Walmart's shortening their hours, gyms are closing, will Planet Fitness close probably soon. Is it possible to be an urban van dweller amidst this pandemic? And my first thought is no, but I don't know. I think I don't know. What do you think? Have you ever done any? Well, you've done a lot of stealth, Sue-Ann. What do you think?
Well, I'm kind of going back on what Joanne was saying, that if history teaches us something, that the homeless have been exempted from closures, or restrictions. And if that's the case, and a stealth camper in a town is lumped in with the homeless, perhaps this is a time where social services will step in and provide the services that to that stealth camper that are also being provided to the homeless. That is all conjecture, but that's where my mind goes.
Yeah, that's, I think you'd get lumped in with the homeless.
Yeah.
That's just about what would have to happen. You know, if you're living in town in a car, you got to get out of that car. And where are you going to go when you're out of that car if the whole town's locked down?
Right.
That'd be my first question. Even in a van, I can be in a van for a long, long time, but I got to get out of the van. I got to walk around, move around. I have a dog. So yeah, I don't know how that would work. Joanne, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, again, just as you were saying, the further out you are, the better. And, in a town, you're going to be looked on as a threat by people whose minds are already being plagued terribly with irritability and anxiety. You are going to be it's bad enough now, being poor is a sin in this country in many areas right now. That's bad enough. But when you add in the, oh my God, I might catch something from that guy who's living in the car or in the van or even in the RV, again, if you've got nothing else and you, for some reason, cannot adapt to parking out in the forest and that sort of thing, then you've just got to risk it. But I wouldn't choose it right now.
Right. Yeah. Most of us stay in town because that's where our job is. I lived in town for 6 years because that's where
Right.
my job was. And I wanted to build up my retirement. And I had young kids that were I lost course. So yeah, if I lost my job, I would have gone out. I'd have gotten out in the public land instantly. Go now before they close everything up and things get bad. Load up with food and water. Go out to public land. Yeah, that's excellent advice, Joanne.
Yeah, you bring up one good point that I hadn't thought of. If you can hold a job in a town, you would become very valuable in this period of time. So you might be able to negotiate some concessions with your employer about staying in their parking lot and that sort of thing. So if you wanted to go work for FedEx or Amazon or, some maybe Walmart even, because Walmart, I'm sure, is going to have a lot of their employees getting, sick and having to, even if it's only a cold or the flu, they're going to have them stay home. They're going to need more people. And if you're willing to do that, that might be a way to make yourself safer stealth parking.
Right. Right. So if you stay, talk to your employer. If you lose your job, go. That's how I would look at it. Best advice we can do. We don't know the best answer for you. Every situation is so different and unique that we can't really give you good answers. Okay, I think we're done. We did a long, long time. Thank you all so much. You want to throw out any last words on, we went a long time. And so people who came in the beginning, people come and go, won't have heard any of this. Any last thoughts you have? Sue-Ann?
Well, how about if I repeat the announcement that if you find yourself ill, you're a nomad, you find yourself ill, you're financially strapped because you can't work because of the virus, please contact the emergency fund at efund@homesonwheelsalliance.org. We are setting aside a portion of that fund to assist people with groceries and supplies. So again, that's FUND at homesonwheelsalliance.org.
Very good. And Joanne, anything you'd like to remind people one last time?
Yeah, if you are a person with a history of anxiety, depression, schizoaffective disorder, bipolar, any of that stuff, no matter how well or how poorly you're doing, please come join us because you may need more support than you think you need right now. And if you're doing great, we need you even more because we need you to help us help everybody else. This is peer-to-peer. We need people in all stages of and all levels of recovery. Go to nomadchapter.org and please, please, please consider using the link there to join us on our village where we can easily communicate with you.
Right. And the one last thing I would say is our general advice to everyone is to find a small group of people that you trust, work out some kind of an agreement where you're supporting each other, get as much food and water in your rigs as you can. go as deep into the national forest or BLM land as you can and hunker down. Stay there your 14 days or whatever you're allowed in that spot. Move to the next one, get as much food and water. If you can move 14 days to 14 days across the country, you're probably going to be very safe. Well, you know, decide who will go into town, who's the healthiest, who's the least risk. Make that person be very, very careful while they're in town. Be very careful once they come back so they don't bring it back with them. Once you're sure of that, then you can relax and get through this as best as we possibly can. Who knows what the future holds? We don't know. Just do your best. Okay, I think we're all done. Thank you all so much for watching this video. Hope you got some ideas out of it. If you did, like us on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, hit that thumbs up button, and we'll talk to you next time.
Sorry, no bubbles.
No bubbles. Oh, we can't do bubbles.
Okay.
Casey, did you hear all that?
Yeah, I haven't ended the stream yet, but sorry everyone, no bubbles because of how we had to stream it today. Okay, I'm going to stop the live feed.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Bye.